Monitoring of persistent organic pollutants in water. Passive sampling of aquatic pollutants. Persistent organic pollutants, or POPs for short, are man-made chemicals that are toxic to the environment and human health. Their production and use are globally regulated by the Stockholm Convention on POPs, and their concentrations in the environment are monitored. The monitoring activities to be performed are specified by the Global Monitoring Plan of the Stockholm Convention, and the basic information for POPs monitoring in water is described in the document Guidance on the Global Monitoring Plan for Persistent Organic Pollutants. This training video, produced for the scientific branch of the Basel, Rotterdam and Stockholm Secretariat, is a visual to guide institutions and countries performing passive sampling for POPs in water, in particular for PFOS, perfluorooctanosulfonic acid and its salts. Therefore, it is important to avoid contamination during sampling and storage, and we need to refrain from using any materials or clothes that may contain PFC-based repellents or Teflon. Water sampling site should be easily accessible by a bridge, a pier or from a boat. They should not be close industrial or municipal wastewater discharges or polluted tributaries, but preferably in an area where their mixing with natural water is assured. For safety and practical reasons, sampling should be done by 2 persons wearing life vests in case there is a risk for drowning. Passive sampling enables the measurement of concentrations of dissolved contaminants, which is a fundamental part of an ecological risk assessment for chemical stressors. We will show you work with passive samplers made of silicone rubber. For a sample deployment we will need a sample holder metal frame, 2 clean stainless steel trays, 2 amber glass jars containing a silicone rubber sample of 6 silicone rubber sheets and a field blank sheet, cable ties, vinyl gloves, tweezers, pincers, a pH temperature and conductivity meter, bucket, sampling record and pen, a rope, anchor and buoy. Upon arrival to the sampling site, use rope, buoy and anchor or attachment to a solid object to perform a test immersion to adjust the correct rope length and sampling depth. This should be approximately a half of the lowest water depth at the site, but no more than 4 meters and no less than 1 meter. Choose such place where the sample remains immersed in water during the entire exposure period. Then set 2 metal trays or trays covered in aluminum foil and a sample holder frame ready to mount the sampler. Put on gloves, unpack the field blank jar and remove silicone rubber sheets from it using tweezers. Place the sheets on the empty and clean metal tray and register the time. Then unpack the sample jar and gradually remove 6 sheets using tweezers and fix them one by one on the sample holder frame using cable ties and tweezers. When all the sheets are mounted, immerse the frame in water immediately. After deployment of the frame in water, pack the sheets of the field blank into their jar, close it tight and register the time. Place the field blank into a cooler box. Then measure and record the information on water turbulence flow rates, temperature, conductivity, pH, water depth, stratification and turbidity into the sampling record. When returning from the sample deployment, place the field blank in a freezer as soon as possible. It will be used again during the sampler retrieval. Passive samplers should remain in water for a minimum of 28 days, and the exact dates must be recorded in the sampling record. The exposed samples are retrieved by reversing the installation steps, but an additional cleaning step may be necessary due to sample fouling. In addition to the previously used material, we will need a pre-clean brush or scourer and paper tissues for a sample pickup. Upon arrival to the sampling site, prepare 2 metal trays and a bucket filled with water from the sampling site. Rinse one of the trays and other sampling equipment such as scourer, tweezers and pincers with local water first and repeat it twice. Then pour about 2 cm of water from the bucket into the previously rinsed tray. Unpack the field blank onto the second dry and clean metal tray and register the time. Then remove the sample from water, place it on the rinsed metal tray and cut the cable ties with pincers. Use tweezers to immerse the 6 exposed silicone rubber sheets into the water in the tray. Clean the fouling as quickly as possible by using a clean scourer or brush. Dry the sheets with a paper tissue. Use rinsed tweezers to make a roll of the sheets and insert them into their corresponding transport jar and close the lid firmly. Pack the field blank into its jar and record the time. Place the sampler and field blank jars to a cooler box, record all necessary information in the sampling record and transport both jars for storage. Store them in a freezer until laboratory analysis. Finally, analyses are performed in a laboratory dedicated to analyze PFOS and other POPs. Resulting data will be provided to the relevant regional organization group for use under the implementation of the Global Monitoring Plan for POPs and reporting under the Stockholm Convention.